What would you do if your number 2 driver beats the world champion on his first day with the new car? And on top of that leaves you speechless with his technical analysis. That happened to Andrea Stella, and what's coming could shake McLaren's foundations. The 2026 preseason was marked by quiet tension. With the most significant regulatory change in the last 5 years, teams knew that each decision in January could define their destiny until December. In this environment of uncertainty and urgency, McLaren arrived in Barcelona with a radical philosophy. While the rest of the paddock was burning tires from the first second of January 26th, the Woking garage remained unusually closed. There were no sounds of engines. There were no mechanics running. There were no wheels turning. Just silence. A silence that, in Formula One, screams. Andrea Stella, team manager, and Rob Marshall, new technical boss signed from Red Bull, knew exactly what they were doing. But his decision seemed suicidal to many, not to take the car out on the track until the 3rd day of the test. This meant giving up shooting time, real-time feedback, and adaptation on the track in exchange for something much more valuable to them: perfection before contact with the asphalt. His logic was clear. If the car was going to race, it had to do so with a final design without improvisations. Every minute saved in the wind tunnel and simulations was more valuable than any lap on a cold track full of last-minute errors. The move was risky because it challenged the most basic logic of motorsports, that every new car needs a track to be understood, adapted, and corrected. McLaren, on the other hand, fully trusted its digital environment. Instead of validating ideas on the ground, they preferred to arrive in Barcelona with a car already validated virtually. This included hundreds of hours in state-of-the-art simulators, dynamic test beds at AVL's Graz facility, and cross-correlation data between wind tunnels and CFD models. When the mcl40 hit the track for the first time, it did so as a finished product. There was no room for trial and error, just for confirmation. This strategy implied brutal exposure. If something went wrong on the track, there would be no time or room for correction. The reputational risk would be immense. Rumors would fly. The cameras would be focused on the garage. Networks would explode with speculation about structural failures or poorly made technical decisions. But none of that happened. When the mcl40 broke the silence and rolled for the first time, its performance was coherent, solid, and without surprises. Not only did it meet internal expectations, but it did so without showing visible cracks. A high-voltage bet that, at least on the surface, had turned out perfectly. But the key to this story is not just the bet. This is what that bet reveals about McLaren's current mentality. The team no longer acts with the need to prove something to others. They don't look for headlines or external validation. They are building from the conviction that they can set the pace without having to follow the rest. That they can lead by innovating, not reacting. That they can control their technical narrative without entering the paddock hysteria. That is the cultural basis that allows such radical decisions to be possible. And it is also what sets the stage for Oscar Piastri's performance, when he finally gets into the car, to have such gigantic weight. Because it wasn't just a test. It was the examination of a complete philosophy. An exam that was about to be corrected by a young man of just 24 years old. When Oscar Piastri appeared on the scene on Thursday, January 29th, the atmosphere in the paddock was one of moderate attention. It wasn't the main focus. The cameras mostly followed Lando Norris, the current world champion, and the Mercedes and Ferrari cars, which had already accumulated hours of filming. For many, it was simply the turn of McLaren's second driver, a talented young man, yes, but still in the shadow of the team's undisputed number 1. What happened that day, however, radically changed that perception. Piastri did not have a normal day. He completed just 48 laps before a fuel system failure forced the team to completely dismantle the car. The day ended early. On paper, that would be considered a lost day in any testing program. But what the Australian did in that limited time was so precise, so surgical, so unexpected, that it forced everyone at McLaren to re-evaluate their internal hierarchy. Oscar's lap time, a 1 minute and 18.419 seconds, was almost 3/10 faster than Norris's 1 minute and 18.725 seconds, who had lapped with more freedom and fewer limitations the day before. The difference was not scandalous in absolute terms, but context was everything. Piastri did it with less mileage, under more technical pressure, without prior filming or filming schedules that would give him early confidence. And even more, he achieved it without the team setting performance goals for him. Its mission was simply to validate parameters. And yet it was faster. But even that wasn't the most shocking thing. The truly decisive thing happened later in the garage, because when he got out of the car, Oscar didn't act like a young man who needs guidance. He behaved like just another engineer. His post-session analysis was, according to McLaren's own technicians, millimetric. Not only did he detail how the car behaved in specific sectors, but he described how small adjustments to the front axle downforce modified traction in medium-speed corners, and how those changes influenced the heating of the rear tires in mixed conditions. He spoke about necessary corrections in the engine mapping to improve delivery in slow corner exits. He commented on subtle differences in steering feedback that only someone extremely sensitive to the car's dynamic behavior would detect. The engineers were impressed, but there was something else. There was a kind of quiet respect that emerged in boxing, a kind of tacit recognition among professionals who understand when someone has stepped forward. And Andrea Stella, who has always valued technical intelligence even more than pure speed, noticed it instantly. Because what he had seen that day was not just speed. There was clarity. There was technical leadership. It was a silent but forceful message, addressed to everyone at McLaren. Oscar Piastri is not here to learn. He is here to compete. And that's where the context becomes even more interesting. Because Lando Norris is not just any driver. He is the defending champion, the face of McLaren, the star product of Stella's project. And for a teammate with less experience, less media support, and less historical prominence to approach his level of performance so quickly, without asking permission, without fuss, and with an extraordinary level of technical precision, has only one possible result: tension. Not necessarily open, but it is palpable. A tension that, if managed well, can make McLaren the most dangerous team on the grid, but which also, if ignored, can fracture the most carefully designed internal dynamics. Piastri's coup of authority was silent. There were no celebrations, no grandiose statements. But everyone who was there felt it. McLaren realized that it has more than just a young talent on its hands. He has a potential technical and sporting leader. One that, in just 48 laps, changed the tone of an entire preseason. Over the years, Andrea Stella has built a unique reputation in the Formula One paddock. He is not a technician who reacts impulsively or gets carried away by external narratives. His style is cerebral, analytical, and above all, reserved. Therefore, when the third day of testing in Barcelona ended and Oscar Piastri's performance data began to circulate, the most significant thing was not what Stella said. It was what he didn't say. Stella avoided any direct public comment on the time comparison between Piastri and Norris. He also did not refer to the differences in technical feedback between the two. When the media asked him about Oscar's performance, he opted for structured answers without explicit enthusiasm, focused on the collective process of the team and the objectives of the test. However, according to internal leaks from team members, his attitude in technical meetings changed radically. During data review with track engineers, Stella spent longer than usual on Piastri's telemetry charts, especially in the braking and traction segments of the third sector, where the Australian showed an ability to maintain minimum speed without sacrificing stability that had not been seen with Norris that day. He also dedicated a private session with Tom Stallard, Piastri's race engineer, to discuss the driver's observations in more detail. This is not a common thing. Stella, who usually centralizes the overall strategy without directly getting involved in micro-technical feedback aspects, showed a very active interest. It was evident that the young pilot had hit something on his radar. From that moment on, the simulator schedules in Woking were reorganized, prioritizing more sessions for Piastri in preparation for Bahrain. The direct presence of Rob Marshall in some of the aerodynamic validation sessions was also requested, which was not initially planned. These gestures, although small, reflect something much deeper. McLaren no longer sees Oscar as the number 2 driver, but as a possible variable of technical and sporting leadership. And that has immense implications. So now I ask you, are we witnessing the beginning of a new era at McLaren? Do you think Oscar Piastri can really break the mold and challenge Lando Norris' internal dominance? Or was this just a flash, a spark that will fade as the races go by? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.